call the meeting to order, 6 p.m. on February 24th, 2025. And let the record reflect that all elected board members are here. Bella's here. We're missing Cameron, who is out probably having more fun than we are. Pledge of Allegiance. And we do have flags.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, Cameron is at a college visit for
He's on a recruiting trip.
yeah, so
Very cool.
definitely exciting. All right, do we have any changes or additions to the agenda? Dan?
10 minutes executive session, evaluation of personnel.
And we have executive session also for the other stuff, so that will probably add a little bit more.
Okay.
All right, we have student achievements. Dan?
Okay, so,
You?
I don't know if we have anybody here, but I'm gonna go ahead and read them off anyway. We have a student from Goldbar Elementary, Wyatt Weissenbarger, for character traits of kindness for February. Wyatt's a 5th grade student in Miss Berry's class. Wyatt is one of those individuals who expresses a genuine care for others. He goes out of his way to greet others with a smile or a kind gesture. If you watch him from afar, you will notice he is always noticing others and looking for opportunities to engage with them, which is the sole purpose of making their day better. His remarkable manners and strong listening skills set a great example for those around him. From the moment you find yourself lucky enough to meet him, he immediately makes you feel like a friend. Without hesitation, GB would like to recognize Wyatt Weissenbarger. Sultan Elementary School, Riley Roth. Riley Roth is a 2nd grader who was selected. This is what his teacher wrote. Riley is one of the sweetest people many of us have ever met. Every day he's excited to see each classmate and always helps, says kind words, or offers friendship to others. He is a ray of sunshine and makes each day brighter with his encouragement and bright smile. We love Riley. Sultan High School. Girls High School, girls basketball is going to state. Alyssa Shallow going to state for gymnastics. See the image below for more information. Elijah Veal took 6th at state for wrestling. Congratulations to the musical cast of the Addams Family. Is this the student report? Am I reading that?
A little bit of what I was gonna say.
Okay.
It's okay.
What I meant
Say it
to,
all again.
I think, talk about only was the musical Turks. So let me, I won't take your part of it, let me go down to this part. Congratulations to our musical Turks. Some of our very talented Turks participated in the solo ensemble competition this past weekend. There were many superior scores. 2 of our Turks deserve special congratulations. Senior Gloria Magruder, who is a state alternate on the flute, and sophomore Bailey Loophole, who is a state alternate in the mezzo soprano. Way to go, ladies. Good job. Congratulations. We are thrilled to announce that Sultan High School junior Alyssa Shalo is on her way to the WIAA State Gymnastic Competition starting tomorrow, February 20th. So this was last week at Sammamish High School. She will compete in 3 events: the floor, the vault, and uneven bars. Her hard work and dedication have truly paid off. We are incredibly proud of her and can't wait to see her represent Sultan High School. Great job, Alyssa.
Do we know how she did?
She didn't make it to 2nd day, but she did really well for her.
Nice, nice, congratulations.
Good job, all students.
All right, we have no questions from last meeting and we have no public comment tonight. Gets us through that really quick. Consent agenda, do we have any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Mary Ann?
No.
Isaac?
No.
Mike?
No.
Michael?
No.
Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda, please?
I motion to approve consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're just going right through here. Do we have any committee or association reports? I don't think that we do, no. Student voice, Bella.
So, yeah, a little bit more in depth of what Mr. Chaplick said, but we're coming to the end of our sports season here for winter sports. For wrestling, we sent 9 boys and 2 girls, which is pretty impressive. One of the girls was a freshman, and the other one was a sophomore, so we're really excited to see that. Elijah placed 6th, you guys saw that. Girls basketball made it to state again. It's a lot of the same team that we had 2 years ago, so we're really excited to send them again. And then Alyssa Shalo for gymnastics, she's a junior, and spring sports start on Monday the 3rd. So we're really excited for that to come up. We just had our Addams Family musical. I've heard a lot that it's one of our best in a couple years, so I know it's really popular, much of a hit. And then Cameron and I both went to the elementary schools the past 2 weeks, but I'm gonna save it for when she gets back. It's pretty important, so we're excited about that.
So thank you. Dan, any community items you wanna share? I know we have conferences coming up.
Conference is coming up the 12th through the 14th. That also coincides, I believe, on that Wednesday with Kindergarten Information Night. They started doing that last year, and it really has proved to be a good time to meet parents and get kindergarten registration started. So be interesting to see what that enrollment looks like. As you're gonna touch on a little bit later, superintendent interviews will start Saturday and I think carry into the next week. And other than that, we're gonna transition starting the first week of March to some spring sports while also having girls basketball, so that's what I know.
Awesome, thank you. Chris Hill, you're up. You have to come to the podium now.
I can do that.
And I'm sure some of it is some we already just covered about
Yeah, I
state
think
and
they
all that,
covered
but you
everything,
can say it
so I'll
again.
just walk off. For those of you that don't know, I'm Chris Hill, I'm the athletic director. So I was just gonna, I think all of you got the outline that I had, but I was gonna talk about a lot of things that have already been talked about. But like she said, we did send 9 boys and 2 girls to state. They wrestled in the Tacoma Dome. I got to go watch. It's a lot of fun if you've never been. They have 24 mats going, so if you're a wrestling fan, it's like a buffet of wrestling all day for 3 straight days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And you know, like was said earlier, Elijah Veal got 6th place in one of the toughest weight divisions. He wrestles at 190 pounds, which is really impressive to he got in the loser's bracket after his 2nd match, and so to fight all the way through and still place says a lot about his perseverance. Our cheer team a couple weeks ago went to state at Battleground, and they took 2nd at state. Our boys basketball team made it to the playoffs last week and played at Cleveland High School and played really well. It was a back and forth game. It looked bad at the start. They were down 11-0, but they showed a lot of character and battled back and had the lead at one point in the 4th quarter. It just came up a little short. As we already know, our girls basketball team is going to state. They actually took 2nd, played in the district championship this last Saturday against Renton. Another really good game. It was back and forth. We had our chances, just came up a little short. So this Saturday we'll play at Mark Morris High School in Longview against Woodland. We are the number 16 seed and they're the number 9 seed. And that should be on NFHS if you can't make it down to watch. Then I haven't been here since, well, quite a while. So a little bit about our fall. Our volleyball team went to state for the first time before or since most of us were born. And so it was really cool to see them. Not only did they go to state, but as we all know, we tried to get into the KingCo conference this last year, and they beat Cedar Crest twice at districts to go to state, and so it felt really good to beat KingCo schools and make it there. Then our girls soccer team, they actually went to districts also. They played Chief South and lost by 1 goal, but it was a close game, and that would have been one more game they could have gone to state. Our football team was 1 game also away from the playoffs. They did play in the district playoffs and lost to Foster, but they once again were 1 game away from state. Our cross country team didn't send anybody to state, but they had many PRs at districts, so their coach was really proud of what they did. Then, like we already said earlier, spring sports start this coming Monday. We have track and field, boys soccer, softball, and baseball coming up, so be ready for that. Then a little bit about us moving into a league. So one of the things that I've been doing is talking a lot with the King Coast schools especially, but the Metro schools also, but mostly the King Coast schools. And as most of you know, I worked in that league for the last 4 years, and so I have relationships with a lot of those people. And so I'm working on continuing those relationships because at some point we're going to have to apply to get into a league. There is an amendment that was passed last year that says every school that plays under the WIAA umbrella must be in a league. So we're gonna need to get in a league, and I personally, I'm sure everybody feels the same, I want to get in a league. Scheduling is not always fun, trying to find games. Everybody wants to play us early in the season before they get into their league seasons. And so like you probably saw with our basketball season, we had a lot of games in December, and then it kind of, not as many the rest of the season. And so it's kind of difficult to schedule. And so I've been working with those ADs from the KingCo conference especially, and scheduling with them as much as possible. And then we try to put our best foot forward when they come to town and make Sultan look good so that they will accept us next time around. And so one of the people that I've worked a lot with on and getting the discussion going is with the KingCo president. Her name's BJ Kuntz. She's the district athletic director at Renton. She used to work at WIAA also, so she's got a lot of connections, and so I'm working closely with her to see what we can do to get us into that league. It's probably not gonna happen this coming year, cause most schedules are done for a 2-year cycle, and the KingCo is definitely in a 2-year cycle because they've gone to a multi-classification scheduling, and so everything they do is set for 2 years, so there's no way we would be able to get into their league this year. But hopefully in the fall of 2026, we will be moving into that. As for youth sports, both cheer and basketball worked with the young kids to have camps this winter. I'm actually meeting with a gal from the community about youth baseball next Wednesday. We're gonna try and get something going there. What we've done with the camps is just get kids in the gym and so that they can learn the game, because a lot of our kids have not played a whole lot. And so as for, Mr. Chaplick and I talked about last week, it's a lot of them aren't ready to play games and be on a team necessarily yet. And so we want to get them in the gym, especially basketball, and get them going in the right direction of learning fundamentals and the skills that it takes to play basketball. And then our hope is to move forward, after we get these camps going, then get leagues going and, get our teams playing Monroe and other places also. So we're working on that. And then I put on here, as you guys will see, all the WIAA amendments that are gonna be coming up this spring that we vote on. So each district, not like Sultan School District, but each district, area district, so we're in District 2, and that's all the schools around us, Seattle area. Each district votes, and then they take one person from that district takes that back to the state, and that's how they come up with the ultimate vote on these. And if you look at, it's number 7 and 8, those are pretty important. I hope you guys are aware of these that are coming up, but it's participation in girls' sports would be limited to biological females. And the other one is athletic programs would be offered separately for boys, girls, and an open division for all students interested. Mr. Chaplick and Gigi and myself are gonna meet next week and talk about that, but I think it's good for you guys to all be aware of that. As of this morning, I started getting emails from people all over the state. Somehow someone put together a list of all athletic directors in the state of Washington and all of our emails. So I'm up to almost 200 emails today about those 2 amendments that I'm getting from people all over the place. So it's a pretty hot topic, and I think it's important that we're all aware of those 2 amendments and that we're all on the same page of where we want to go with that. That's what I have. Thank you very much.
Anyone have any questions?
Go ahead, I'll let the board go and then I'll comment.
Michael,
No questions.
Mike?
Just the youth programs, I know, Chris, we've talked earlier. That's one of the biggest things that I get approached by multiple people, is just, when are we gonna start doing it, or just involving the community and discussing, what are the next steps for, football's a big one, youth football. And I saw that girls flag football's on here, I think that's awesome, I hope that gets passed. And so then we should start, what do we do for some of the young ladies that wanna play flag football too in our community? But just a lot of interest on what are the next steps. So I would just be interested on, when you develop that plan, if you can just please involve me, I'd love to help.
Yeah, definitely. And like we talked about wrestling, if we get that going, I'd love to have your help and your input on that.
Sure. Absolutely.
Isaac, questions?
Good.
Marianne,
No questions.
Bella? And what were you gonna say, Dan?
So I was just gonna say, the other thing we talked about, connecting Kayla and Chris to put a section on the website for AD communications. And it can go as far as, updating that on a regular basis. I know that you have an email list going. I don't know who all is on it, cause I get it. It looks like several do, but I think that's a wonderful way to do it, especially about halfway through your first year, a little more than that. Just really starting to establish all that. And, you could even, we could have people sign up with their emails on the website so that they can be added to those distributions that you make. Because I think more and more, I find, even though I've been doing this for a while, communication is just a huge ongoing issue that we have to constantly renew ourselves with, so.
And if you
Thank
can
you.
put me on that list, I'd like that, on that distribution list as well.
Definitely.
Awesome, thank you, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Dan Ballard, financial report.
Evening, directors. I'll do this for the first time with no paper in front of me here, so we'll see how this goes. As I had said, I sent out an email to you. The format of the report that I'm giving you tonight is different, but the information should be familiar to you, just kind of putting it in a little more hopefully visually appealing format. Enrollment report, as far as how we look at this and where we are in reference to our budget and so forth, so that's something you're used to seeing. Traditional enrollment, our annual average full-time equivalency, or AAFTE, you hear that term a lot. We're at 2,029 in 24-25. In prior years. Obviously, you have some COVID years in there, like 20 and 21, that are very, very low. This is our traditional enrollment with the February numbers in there. It's kind of started a little high. We saw a little bit of a drop. Bumped up in January and then drop in February. Typically that aligns with beginning of second semester, where we typically would see some of our students moving from traditional to ALE environment. And there it is. There's the jump in ALE. So you saw a decline in traditional and a spike in ALE as we get some students that maybe are struggling in a traditional environment and look to try something different the second half of the year.
Dan, before you move on to that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So on the first page of the report, SVA reported at 57, and this one looks like it's between like 77.
Back up here. Let's see, you're 57,
It's right at the bottom there.
yeah, sorry, I'm looking like getting my new glasses here. So 24-25 AAFTE is the 60.75, 60.95 is in the column there, the green column.
Yeah, and it's on here, on the other one is 77. Is that a discrepancy, or is that just reports just not lining up?
Could be something like this, just it's pulling off of an incorrect cell, so I apologize for
No
that.
worries.
So I will get that fixed.
Thank
So.
you.
And this is the head, now this is switching to head count. So typically I talk a lot about FTE because that's what drives dollars, but the head count is something that we look at as far as space is concerned. So again, this is just a continuation. I've had this out here for you for 6 or 7 months. Nothing new, but just a continuation of that, but there we go. And then this is by building. So obviously red, SES is the one that we talk about most frequently as far as their growth has gone up substantially over the last 4 or 5 years. And then looking at this on building level, the red bar down below is the permanent designed capacity for the building. That's that red solid line, and then the individual specific numbers, and then kind of a linear appropriation as far as you can see the slope is slightly upward over that period of time. Sultan Elementary School, obviously the slope is much more pronounced because again, they are up at 704 with a design capacity down there at the bottom. Continuing on. Sultan Middle School, same thing. slope is relatively flat, but design capacity in red, and as far as their actual numbers there for the specific data points. And then Sultan High School with the design capacity and how their numbers have kind of jumped above and below's kind of jumped back and forth over the history of that analysis from 2010-11 through 24-25, so about 15 years. Now these are the budget status reports that I'm required to present to you per RCW on a monthly basis. Added a little bit of additional explanation here to the right. Through January, which is 41.6% of the fiscal year, our revenues, we've collected about 37.1%, and our expenditures are just under 40% at 39.7%. So we're 2.6%. Our expenditures are exceeding revenues on a proportionate share by about 2.6%. And then capital projects fund, debt service fund, ASB fund, and transportation vehicle funds. And then the reports as far as looking at salaries and benefits, this is your Objects 2s, 3s, and 4s. These are certificated salaries, classified salaries, and related benefits. In this particular case, grand total 0.1% in the good. So we're just about spot on as far as through January. If we look at material supplies and operating costs, we are 5.9% below. However, I did make a note down there as far as special education is concerned. We have had to do a significant number of additional budget transfers for adding capacity to special education of about $841,000. A lot of that is still sitting in encumbrances. It's not yet been paid out, but we have had to increase the budget for special education significantly already this year to issue purchase orders for anticipated services. And then this would be all expenditures, 2,000 through 999s. It is 1.1% below, but if you take out those additional enhancements, you're about 0.3 or 0.3% below. So it's getting pretty close to spot on. K-3 class size compliance, why is this? This is a new one. This is something that comes out 3 times per year. They give you a report in January, March, and June. We received last Tuesday, the one for the first compliance report, which is the January numbers. So we received notification, currently demonstrating compliance, and in this particular case, we were not demonstrating compliance. So this is uncommon. I should say it's not uncommon. Many districts find themselves in this circumstance, but it is a first time for Sultan. So jumped right in and took a look at that, and there are some contributing factors that could have caused this. We obviously have had a reduction in 1 grade class, both at GBE and SES, in 24-25 versus 23-24. Okay, so you've taken 2 classrooms away. During that same time, you're plus 40.22 students. Okay, so you have 2 fewer classrooms, but 40.22 more students that are filled into those grade spans. And then we had some miscoding of staff. Went through and looked through the initial S275, which is the staffing report that is submitted at the end of November, and found that there were some teachers that were not properly coded to K-3 class span that should have been. So went back through, reviewed all those codings, and then we will have those ready for a updated submission that will happen on the 10th of March. So it'll be recalculated for the second compliance check at middle of March.
So I'm thinking that the first paragraph up there, it should say currently not demonstrating compliance.
Oh, I'm sorry, it says on currently, it should say not, NOT, not demonstrating compliance. Yes, Gigi, thank you.
It makes much more sense.
I'm sorry. Currently not demonstrating compliance, okay. And then we feel that corrections that I identified will eliminate most, if not all, of the initial recovery amount. And the next, as I said, the next compliance check will be in March, next month. Questions on that? I know that one's new.
So what is the?
I typically don't do this, but this one, it was significant enough that I wanted to make mention of it, so.
So it says you feel that the corrections will eliminate most, if not all, of the initial recovery. What did so they recovered funds from us?
It's not a recovery probably is the wrong term. It is a hold, it's a hold, okay? They have not, no money has been taken back. They've just recalculated your annual amount based on non-compliance on the first check.
And then if we're compliant
Then
next
all that money
month,
comes back.
So for January,
All comes back.
February, well, at least January, not February quite yet, we've received apportionment for January that was based on the non-compliant amount.
Correct.
I'm 100% convinced that when it's all done accurate, and the staff that we have through agencies, because they have to be put in a different way,
Different way.
that will show compliance.
Right.
So some of it is a natural part of this process. The part that wasn't as natural is there was more errors than there should have been. And OSPI doing that check brought it to our attention. But we just wanna make sure that we're using the right checks and balances to make sure it's accurate.
Any other questions on that? Estimated fund balance, again, so I just mentioned the K3 compliance, the fact that they have reduced our annual allocation based on the fact that we're currently demonstrating a ratio of 19.29. 17-1 is the magic number. They provide you enhanced funding if you can demonstrate that your ratio in kindergarten through third grade is no greater than 17 students to 1 teacher, okay? So based on some of those other factors that we talked about, our current annual amount is based now at 19.29. We will get that fixed to get it down to 17 or very, very close to 17. Just the preliminary numbers, I got to 17.02 is what we got to.
There was like 5,000 left, and we haven't done any of
Correct.
the work on the.
Contract
So
providers.
as Paul hires additional employees, sometimes they're contractors. You can't code them in the same way you would a teacher, even if they're a teacher. So we also added some more specialist time at Sultan Elementary School. We had to add that in. So this is gonna work out. It's a matter of making sure though that we'll get it done and we check
I
our
feel
work.
very confident, yeah. This is not an alarm, this is purely just a heads up, is all this is. We've identified this, we have identified what the changes are that are necessary, the changes have been given to the HR department for submission, the submission will be done, and they will just recalculate our annual amount, so.
But there was things that we didn't do correctly.
There were some people that, a teacher that moved from one grade to the next was still in the previous grade.
And we're not gonna,
You have to
Continue
make
to
sure
do
it's
that?
coded, and K3 is where the 17 is. So the penalty is you lose funding. So if it's only over 0.2 or 0.02.
0.02.
0.02, it's $4,000 or something.
It
The
sounds,
initial one was $700,000.
wait, to hit that number, it's because we have too many kids to teacher ratio, correct? And Aubrey was here last meeting saying our kindergarten classes at SES are way overdone.
Well, yeah, and he's not wrong, but at the time that happened, I could tell the minute I laid eyes on the report that we had some issues.
Right.
And the issues were that it showed that we had only 34 staff there, and it should have been up to around 39. So getting everybody in the right spot, making sure the add-ins, because we've added staff as the year's gone on, making sure they're in there, will correct all of that. So we will bring back to you on the next meeting what I would say will be within the 17-1 ratio, no doubt. I'm certain there's enough changes still to be made to get there. Last year, as an example, we were way under it, 15.65. And so to go from 15.65 to 19-something is a lot. Because who counts into this are all the specialists at each of the schools. Hannah does as a counselor, and we just added some time to her contract. We had to put that in, so that goes in. And so all of that stuff counts in, you just have to keep it up to date, or when they count it. So we just went through the first one of the year. The key is having the right systems in place, having correct rosters that say, here's who's at K3 at each school, here's who the specialists are, here's how much time they're in K3, here's how much time they're in 4-5, knowing exactly what time of our special education program, who is serving K3 students, who is serving 4-5.
well, that's just like a given, right? I mean, we should be doing that correctly.
Sounds.
No, as I went through it, it was very old school. I literally called the offices. I said, can you name me the names of the teachers in every one of your grades? Laid that beside the report that had been submitted and tried to figure out where the disconnects were. And that's where we were able to come up with, once we got people moved in that needed to be moved in, some people moved out that needed to be moved out, and then some others that just hadn't been classified correctly, is why we were able to get down to demonstrate almost compliance without even looking at contract providers, which we still need to do. Those are submitted in a different method. Those are submitted by a smart sheet. They are not submitted through the S275. They're submitted outside of the S275, but they are included in the compliance calculation. Okay, so anyway, continuing on, so this is the estimated fund balance based on the demonstrated 19.29 ratio. You can see that June gets very low. June is the second of 2 consecutive months where your apportionment is low. You get 6% of your annual apportionment in the month of May, and you get 5% in the month of June. So you have 2 low months in a row. Typical month is 9%. So you have 2 successive months. June typically is always our lowest point of cash, and this year we're looking at about $100,000. Okay? We have been in that realm before. That is not completely uncharted territory. We were in that range a number of years ago, pre-COVID at one time. So, and then you see things rebound significantly in July and August because you get 10%. So you go from a 5% in June to 10%. You get twice as much in June, and you get 12.5% in August. Or excuse me, 12.5% in July and 10% in August.
So Dan, what caused the 98,000 in June?
Well, as I said,
I know that we're getting the apportionment's smaller.
correct, 2 successive months.
Past years, we haven't dipped below or that low in June, so
Correct. I think the lowest one prior to that was about 250,000. It was pre-COVID. It was
we
quite a few years
identified
ago.
why we're that low?
Just because, again, you've got certain factors that stay constant. Your payroll stays constant, okay, regardless of what your inflows are. Your payroll is gonna be at about $2.8 million, give or take, every month. Your bills, depends on how many cycles of bills that you have. You also have a large second accounts payable bill to your risk management for your insurance. It's in that period, which is $300,000, so you have an external $300,000 2-time-a-year payment that's in that time frame as well. You also have various different cash out, end of year
Those
cash
happen
outs.
annually, right? That happens annually every year.
Correct.
So all those are all the same, so what is different this year than last year?
Because again, you've got your cost structure is continuing to go up. We talked about like in special education and your expenditures. So you've got expenditures that are starting to ramp up higher. Also too, keep in mind, the reason that we did this, Mike, is that revenue stream is constricted because you're demonstrating at 19.29, not 17.0. If you demonstrate at 17.0, that $700,000 flows back into the model over those various months, and then I'll flow that out.
So that
But-
error is carrying into that, it's amplifying June.
Correct. But what I don't want to do is we've identified, made you aware that the revenue is understated based on the fact that we're currently demonstrating a 19.29, not 17.0. Once that recalculation happens, then I will have true numbers as far as the anticipated revenues at a 17 to 1 demonstration versus 19.29. That will allow me to go through and recalculate this on a larger revenue stream, but it'll also give us some additional time to look at expenditures. Case in point, this model was developed on expenditure patterns every 3 weeks of $381,000 as far as accounts payable. Our accounts payable in the last run was $450,000. So I've got a $70,000 delta right there. Is that a blip? Is that a anomaly? Don't know, but I'm gonna get some additional series to see, is 381 a reasonable number, or do I need to raise that up? If I need to raise it up, I've gotta spread that. So I may have more cost coming into this model, but I will have more revenue coming into the model as well, okay? So when I get better information, what I gave you last month was very, and as I said in my email, was number one is we didn't have the reports, were not officially delivered to us at that point. Number two, we have had some additional things that have come to light since then. We got an additional transportation allocation, higher than what we thought, has been added in here. The issue related to K3 compliant. K3, oops.
Are we losing?
What did you
power
do,
plants.
Dave?
Dave.
Alright.
I think it's getting windy.
Is it supposed to be stormy time?
So, anyway, Mike, just, I don't wanna belabor the point, but yes, there will be more revenues will be coming into this model. There may be more expenditures coming into this model, and we'll net those two out, and then I'll give you a new prospectus at that
What's
point.
the difference in pay that we get from being compliant to not being compliant?
The difference, the preliminary number between 19.29 and 17.0 was $695,000
A month,
for the year,
or just for the year?
for the year. So about over $750,000, or well, close to $750,000
Less per year if you don't
less
stay
for the
compliant.
year,
Got it.
based on the fact that you're only demonstrating 19.29 versus 17.0. Basically, what they're saying is, we're giving you additional dollars to better staff these low class sizes. But if you can't show us that you're doing that, then we're gonna take that money back. We've given you extra money for that specific purpose. You then have to demonstrate that you're using it for that specific purpose. Okay? All right, and then this also assumes a $750,000 safety net award in August, okay? We're at the preliminary point right now. Dr. Douglas and I are just getting started as far as safety net is concerned. I think the first initials are in the 15th of March, is that right?
Yeah.
15th of March, so a couple, 3 weeks, we'll have the first round of submissions to kind of get a better sense, but working in conjunction with Dr. Douglas, 750 we feel is a reasonable number. So the ending was about 2.1, a little short of 2.1. All right. And that's the end. Last
Questions?
slide.
Bella? Marianne? Isaac?
No.
Mike? Michael? All right,
Thank you, Director.
thank you.
Dan, let's do the enrollment
Oh, I'm
first,
sorry. Okay,
first
yeah, yeah.
look.
Yep. Okay,
Just
first-
initial look at enrollment.
First look. First of all, this is just post-COVID years, okay? I took the COVID years out. We finally now have at least 2 full years of post-COVID data, because the COVID data totally threw these models out of whack, okay? So you can see we got 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25, okay? Now, I do have a disclaimer in here. Superintendent Chaplik and I talked about this. Typically, these numbers, these enrollment numbers are based on annual average FTE. What we did though, as far as for K-5, they are based on the most recent number, not the annual average, okay? What that has a tendency, as our enrollment has continued to increase throughout the year, your current number is higher than what your average is. Therefore, it's driving a larger number here at the end. If we used annual average, and all these this would be 2028. It's 2040, so it's driving 12 additional FTE using that modeling
So you're using current numbers and not an average?
for K-5, okay?
'Cause it
We have
says
not done it,
6-month
not done it
average
that way
on it.
before. That is a little, it's kind of a hybrid.
But it still says 6-month average?
Yes, this was put together very quickly this afternoon. But K-5, full disclosure, K-5 is based on the most current month, February. The others are based on the average of September through February. Okay?
Why do we do average for some and not use current numbers for those
I'll
also?
let Mr. Chaplik maybe comment on that. Did you wanna
Why are
comment,
we
Dan, on the
using-
methodology of?
So,
Current
yes,
numbers.
because when I looked at this first forecast, I felt like it understated what was truly happening at K-5. Salton Elementary, as an example, has got about 710 students. When I broke it down, I said, this took it to 704. And I couldn't figure out how in the world does that happen? You know, because of all of the factors have been growth at that level. And so I said, well, and part of it is we're using a methodology at K-5 that you would mostly use at the secondary. Because we do not lose kids over the course of the year at the elementary level.
Question is, why are we using the actual for K-5 but not actual for the rest?
I think that's kind of what Dan just said, is that as typically in secondary especially, you will see numbers come up and then you'll see them start to tail at the end of the year. You'll see enrollment start to tail as kids drop off. That's typically elementary tends to stay more solid. If the kids come, they tend to remain through the end of the year.
And then if you.
So that was
if you look
Dan's
at,
thought, is that we use the current number versus the annual average.
And if you look at 24, 25 actual, and then look to the survival in the right column, you can see up to grades K through 9, we're 100% or greater of a survival rate. Grades 10 through 12, our survival rate's not very good. And so we're continuing to lose on the overall at that level.
And maybe for those of you that haven't been through this process before, a little bit of terminology, this cohort survival rate, all that basically says is what percentage of your kindergartners became first graders the successive year? What of your first graders matriculated to second and so forth? How many survived, or how many remained with you, or did you lose? Obviously, 100 would be a 1-to-1. Had 100 kids, 100%, you'd have 100 kids the next year in that grade. Less than 100%, you would expect your enrollment to be slightly less in that subsequent grade the next year. Greater than 100%, you would expect it to be slightly higher. So that's what it basically works out to. So there's 2 ways. The yellow one is using the 25-26 estimates. If I use current year's survival rate and prior year average, comes out to a plus 28.4. This one here, if I use just the current year, is a much more aggressive at 67.5. My recommendation would probably be to go with the yellow. Again, this is just a first look. You're not making a decision this evening, but this is just a first look, and then we can go back and we'll have one more count to do. We'll do the March count and add that to the analysis and then update the numbers.
Any questions on this, Michael?
Still kind of absorbing it.
It's a lot.
A lot of
numbers.
information.
I know, it's a lot of numbers. I'd be happy to answer,
I mean, you
get in
can
touch with me and I'm happy
put
to
all
go
this
into
stuff
more.
aside, you can say, okay, we wanna set enrollment that's no growth. Okay, that would be 0, or 28 kids across the district seems reasonable. More aggressive would be the 67, or somewhere else. There's different ways to land at the number. We're simply describing a way that's more mathematical at arriving at the conclusion than just saying, here's what we think. Or rolling them up doesn't work.
Questions, Mike? At this point?
This point, no. I mean, we're gonna have to look at this pretty,
There'll be a lot of work on
Intensely.
this, yeah.
I don't wanna overshoot like we did
No, I
last
don't
year.
wanna pay money back.
Isaac, questions at this time?
Nope.
Mary Ann?
No, I'm
Bella?
conservative
Okay.
still.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
SHS PLC presentation.
Before we get into our PLC presentation, I want to inform the board, Mr. Hill did not brag upon himself of some of the things that he did. Just so you guys know, he really went to bat for Sultan School District and Sultan High School when it came to getting us into districts. So when the fall came along, because we're independent, the best that we could do was get into for 7th place. Even though our records were way better than any other of the teams, and really volleyball should have been placed higher, like probably the 3rd seed. But because we were independent, we were placed 7th. And so Mr. Hill had meetings with all of these people and said, this is not fair, this is not right. And they were like, well, we can't do anything differently right now for fall, but we'll consider it for, or we can't do anything for the fall, but we'll consider it for winter. And so when winter came about and our girls made it to where they're at, the conversations he had in the fall really helped us get our girls placed higher than a 7th, 8th, or 9th seed. So I think you guys should know that because he's not gonna brag upon himself, but I have sat with him, we've had multiple meetings, we worked through all of this. How can we do this, what's right? And so that was huge for us because us being independent, I mean, we could have easily fallen in at a 9th seed and being kicked out like that, whereas where these kids really worked their tails off to be seated higher. And so he went to battle for us, our students, our schools, and said, hey, they deserve this, they worked hard, here's the information, here's the data. And so, with PLCs, I thought, we're working on data, so here's the data to show that our kids really deserve to be in a higher seat. So we just wanted to make sure you guys knew that. Like I said, he wasn't gonna brag upon himself, and so he's not gonna add that in, but I think that is huge for us, especially for being independent. We want someone that will really advocate and work for us to get us where we deserve to be, even though we are independent.
Thanks, Sarita.
Thank you for adding that.
Thank you.
So tonight we are giving our PLC update. Krista and I go Wednesday to present to ESD 189 for our 3-year accreditation. And we are going to be tying in some of the PLC information with that. So this goes in nicely with some of the things that we're gonna be doing when we go up to ESD for our, we have a 6-year accreditation, but we have to do a 3-year review. And so we've been putting lots of time into getting all the information and everything ready, and we will be presenting on Wednesday. So with the PLCs, we have our group here, but had an opportunity to meet with all of our PLTs and videotape and see where they're at. So I'm gonna turn it over to Krista as one of our teacher leaders. And if you guys don't know, Krista's also working on her administration credentials. And so because she's working on her administration credentials, I've really tried to give her a lot of things so she has a lot of experience. And so I am gonna turn it over to you, Krista.
Thank you. So PLC's just kind of a little update about Sultan High School.
Reminder, this is a 3-year process to kind of get us started. So last year was the first year, and we really focused on the essential learning standards, trying to create proficiency scales. And then year 2, our PLC guru told us it's really focusing on cognitive formative assessments, starting to collect the data, starting to try to plan for additional time and support and extensions for students. And then next year, our focus is effective grading and reporting, and still adding to these. We never stop doing any of them, we're just adding more steps to it. So we created some videos for you guys to see, so I'll be quiet and let you guys listen to some of our departments.
Here's my chart that I put together. The first standards that I was looking at was determining a theme or central idea of a text, analyzing in detail its development over the course of the text, and providing an objective summary of the text. So then I broke out my folders, my rocks, and my butterflies with my different colored sticky notes. So that I can map out over the course of 15 days which standards that I want to make sure that I hit, which would, what they need to know, what they should know, and then the little sticky notes are like things that would be nice to know. And hopefully I have time, now that I've mapped it out, that I can make sure to hit all of my standards.
So one of our big things in December was a 15-day challenge, kind of a unit plan. So that's what his example of what he was showing them.
Well, we've been talking a lot, or at least Annie and I were talking about like sharing a lot of resources between the grade levels. So after we go through, do our 15-day challenge and look at our resources, we've been talking about like how do the lower grades inform the upper grades, and just making sure that we're all getting aligned on what we're doing.
So therefore, they're really talking about that vertical
Freshman,
alignment.
the surge rubric, claim evidence, reasoning, and justification that's similar to the ones that are done at the middle school. And then you all have really been helping me figure out, because coming from the middle school, like what the standards look like, what the content looks like, how to do, especially the seniors. I love the stuff that you have on Beowulf. And I just feel like all of you have really been very helpful. So thank you for that with all the resources on expectation standards, alignment between the grades, and what good work should look like at the high school level.
Yeah, and it's nice because we're starting to look at like common formative assessments too. So like you and I are getting on the same page, you and I are getting on the same page, you're getting on the same page. So yeah.
And like having you here has helped because like I didn't know anything about surge, and so when I've been teaching my kids all honors or seniors, when I say surge, they're like, oh yeah, I remember that. I know what you're talking about. So having that vertical alignment helps a lot with a lot of this stuff. I mean, we want to talk about our next steps.
So Annie, the one in the corner, is one of our split teachers, so she does middle school and high school. And so she doesn't always get to be with the part of our English department PLC, but she even talked to me later saying it's very helpful because I can see the progression all the way from 6th grade moving on. And they all do share a class with somebody else, and so they can do that common formative assessment and the planning and the sharing. How did it work with you? I tried it this way, it didn't work so well. So they're making good strides in English department. Go ahead.
Not every class has somebody else that teaches the same class, but most of them we've tried to. So like Annie teaches freshmen and 12th graders, and so she can pair up with Shauna and talk about something. She can also pair up with Kelsey Lupin and talk because they both teach seniors. And so we also have 11th graders, and so those are some of the things we've tried to do. So not everybody has like Chris and I may not teach honors biology together, but we can at least have some of those conversations of what are you doing, what was that like, so we can try to do some vertical alignment in that, and that's what some of them are trying to do as well.
skip the second one because it was pretty similar.
The year-long class down into a semester.
Yes, especially if the.
Here's our CTE department, who are singletons.
Hi, we're the CTE department at Sultan High School. Currently for our PLTs, we're working on our unit plans for each course and focusing on our essential standards.
We're really proud that all three of us have a class finished or close to finished so far.
And the next steps is each of us have 3 other courses to do.
So with CTE, they said they're singletons, so they normally have currently, they have anywhere from 3 to 5 courses that they teach. And so, the really cool thing is that CTE department, they have been gung-ho, and they've taken one class, and have completely laid it out for the entire year. We're talking scope, they've laid out their scope and sequence, they've laid out this is when I'm teaching, this is how I'm teaching, and so they are ready to move to their next class. So CTE has really been working hard to do that.
And what you see here is where they post on Canvas, they're creating a common format where they put their proficiency scales. And on the left here, you can see where Mr. Tritchler is mapping out his next class and what are his priority standards. And so they sit together and they talk, even though they have different classes, they're spending a lot of time communicating about what should this look like, how would this impact the other classes. So it's really neat to watch them work as a group.
And then our next one.
Nobody would.
Good morning.
We were all gone that day.
Today, I think one of the things that we are proud of is wrapping our heads kind of around the idea of PLC work because we don't teach common classes and trying to figure out how that works within our structure. And then identifying those essential standards and learnings sort of based on units. And moving forward with figuring that work out and applying that not only to the required classes, but also eventually to our electives.
And with social studies, it's kind of a different beast because they have a lot of ELA standards, but they also have a lot of other skills they pull in. And so they try to balance out skills and ELA standards and mesh them together. So that's one of the things they've been working on.
And this is kind of an example of the document. So the nice thing, Sarita kind of created an Excel sheet and we all use the same format. So whether you're in social studies, science, English, we all use these formats. So it's easier to find, especially as an admin, like you know where it's located, you know what it's designed for. And so it's a quick, easy look at what's happening and what progress is being made.
Very similar to then all of those other two, where it's like getting the information and then from that information.
No, composing functions is a technical thing where you're like taking, you're taking one function and you're plugging it into another function to create a third function. And later on, they have you look at how does that affect the domain and range of the, that's, I got you. I can see why it looks like that, yes.
Of compose function, like that
Like
has
it has
a
meaning,
specific
yes.
skill.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Nope.
Alright, does that take us to 2 then?
Yes. Should we talk to Laura while she's here?
Alright, arithmetic and geometric sequences both recursively and with an explicit formula, use them to model situations and translate between the two formulae.
So what we are doing is we're looking at the standards and we're working through the real assessment because we realized we had not understood it the first time we did it. But we're kind of doing all classes at the same time. So we're like, these standards are these an Algebra 1 standard? Are they an Algebra 2 standard? Are they an advanced Algebra 3 standard? So that when we leave having done this, we have a better idea of what concepts are covered in Algebra 2, what concepts are covered in advanced Algebra 3, and what concepts are covered in Algebra 1. So while it's slow going, we're kind of getting essential standards for all 3 classes at the same time. But what we're focused on is identifying the standards for better vertical alignment and overall department cohesion such as common formative assessments. So we're working in that direction, but we have a lot to go through, so it's taken us a while.
So last year, the math department was working through geometry and they went through the real assessment. And I think they were so focused and all of a sudden they realized, wait, we really could do this all at one time with all the classes and really make it cohesive. So they've gone through and really this year focused on making sure that they have looked at all the standards and decided what are the priority standards, vertically align them and working through it with all the classes. So it's been a pretty intense process over the last few weeks. It was like taking a few steps back so that they could go forward and get stronger with those classes. So it was neat to see them make
And
this decision.
some of the things that you see in there too is that we have our special ed math teachers working with our math department. It's not special ed working off in their own. So we have special ed math working with the math department. We have our special ed English working with the English department so that our students who have IEPs, they are getting the same rigor, maybe just a different format. So, and that is really the important piece to this.
And at the very beginning, you saw Morgan asking some questions around the standards. She's our special ed teacher who's great at how do I accommodate and differentiate for my students' needs, not necessarily a content expert. And she is learning these standards at a higher level and understanding how it works. And she goes, we just had this conversation where she's going, I go back to my classroom that's still just my special ed kiddos. And it's almost like the Algebra 1 now. And these kids are getting a lot more in depth with the math than they ever were before. So it's really impacting the type of education our kids who receive special education services are getting. So it's really neat to see.
All right, moving on, I think to science.
So what we're about to do, we just finished talking about a section and we're about to finish this whole unit going through it. And then after we decide exactly what's being taught and make it more consistent between classes, then we'll go through quiz questions and make sure every single question matches up with an assignment and a learning, as well as the vocabulary that's used. We don't want to use, science tends to use highfalutin language like determine which of the following rather than just saying which answer. And so that we will end this session with going through the quiz and making sure that all of it's been supported and that it will all make sense to as many kids as possible. And so that's what we're gonna achieve today.
One of the things that's been really nice about this too is, as we've sort of worked on trying to unify our quizzes and things, it's been really enlightening for me to look at the quizzes that Stephanie's made, because you use, in a lot of instances, you ask the same questions in a different way that allow for a greater variety of processing the information. And so the types of questions that we've been using have increased in variety, but I think that that's helpful for the kids. Because I kind of have the thing, I had a thought of like, oh, this would be really good, and then she would show me a question that she made for the quiz, same content, and I'm like, that's actually probably a better way to try and get the kids to show, or a different way at least, to get them to show that they understand what's going on. So it's been really useful that way, because then what we have is a quiz that does an even better job of allowing for more kids to have success.
And John, he has really helped me because I think he spent more time getting into the nitty-gritty bits of Canvas. So he's taught me how to ask questions in the Canvas quizzes that I have no idea how to use that function. So we've really helped each other.
Yeah. And then moving forward, we're gonna obviously finish the end of our freshman science class to make sure that all our quizzes are the same, and then also start talking about potentially pacing, assuming we go to a 4-period next year.
Why was the iguana not allowed to give comment or feedback?
Actually, that was a bearded dragon.
Bearded dragon. I wanted to hear from the
Very
bearded.
large bearded dragon.
It was really paying attention though.
It was paying
Yeah.
attention. The really cool thing about the science department, and Chris is a part of that science department, they have been phenomenal, working together and really listening to each other, and how can I say, they're putting students first. So for example, they were just talking about, okay, so we've looked at our curriculum, our test questions. Stephanie asked better questions, so I need to step back because maybe my questions are not okay, but maybe I went into it thinking my questions were better. But listening and working that through, that Stephanie actually had better ideas, and so there are a lot of people with the science department have been really good about listening to one another and working through the different things and putting their, I'm gonna say their egos aside, because you know, when you're working and you think that, hey, I'm coming with the best of the best, but then when you get together with your team and you realize that, oh, Krista, she does have she has better ideas than, you know. So I just think that it's been really cool to see the science department grow even more in that area. Not that they have egos or anything that they're competing against. But it's just been fun to watch that and see that growth in the science department working together, because it's just phenomenal to see that. And the lady in the purple, she is a long-term sub, and she's jumped right in and been a part of everything, because Kelly, who went on maternity leave, left information with her. They also met prior to and gave her, this is what we're doing, and so they met, and so she had ideas when she came in of what to do and where to pick up at. So it was just phenomenal how that science department has really worked together to create some of the things that they're creating.
Yeah, I think so. They kind of work on the 9th grade, and then Kelly and I work on the 10th grade in honors biology. And I think kind of what you said, like Kelly and I have already worked a lot together anyways prior years, but this kind of like makes it formalize and gives us the time we used to spend on the weekends texting with each other about what are you doing for this. And it is, we had our kind of unit test before she left, and we actually got to sit with the data and be like, dang, your kids really got this. How did you teach it? What activity did you do? Because we have the same standards, but we teach differently. Like, we all are unique. And so she kind of compared, like, this is how I set it up, showed me her, like, PowerPoints and stuff, and I kind of showed her mine on certain ones. And so we were able to take the best of both of ours and put it together to make something even better than what we thought.
And ultimately, that's what PLC is supposed to be.
I'll skip the second one because we don't want to take up all your time.
Problems.
Systems that they get is cardiovascular
That's
system. So if you
more.
focus in on how these exercises are strengthening their cardiovascular system, it's gonna directly align with what they're learning in that health.
Well, I have stuff for all the systems, so, but it's very like, here's the basic system, here's the big overarching parts, and then what are the benefits, what happens to the system while you're exercising.
And then maybe going forward, maybe one of the goals we can have is when we get through regular health class, that we sit down with what I'm teaching in body systems in there and what supports that learning.
So last year, our health and PE department, we had a couple people teaching health, and that's what they really focused on. And this year, only Brandy's teaching health, and the others are teaching the PE side. So they kind of had to adjust a little bit, but still work together. Do you want to share anything about your?
Time. So I'm one of those singletons that teach a bunch of things. So right now in PLTs, I'm paired with the PE department, and we are aligning what's taught in both PE and health to support what's taught in PE and health because they're so closely related. One of the things we were talking about here was like specific questions and specific assessments that we do in different units that actually align with both curriculum. So it's really kind of fun. And then Katie and I are starting to get all these split off ideas about how we can support like the higher level health science classes with what's going on in the PE classes and teaching them to do assessments with what's being taught in the PE classes. So it's really kind of a neat mesh of about a bazillion worlds. I'm also really excited to get with science and to align some of the science standards that I teach in those classes that can support chemistry, that can support biology, that can support all of those things. So it's kind of fun to be the ping pong ball between groups.
And I know that with singletons for like your health and your PE, one of the things that they were talking about, it would be really nice to have time to meet with the middle school and do that vertical alignment because they've not done any of that yet right now, where they're just working with all of the different ping pong in our school. So I know that Brandy has voiced that she would really like to get with Ms. Murphy at the middle school and really make sure that that vertical alignment for health is set up. I know that Ben and Katie have also talked about that's what they would like to do for PE, is make sure that vertical alignment is there as well. So that's some of the things that they'd like to do in the near future.
And same with our fine arts department. So this is our PE and health. They actually did multiple 15-day challenges, which is just a unit plan for 15 days. And they did it for a lot of their units. And I talked to Katie and she's like, it actually helps me visualize what needs to go where and not focus on like, oh, today's a Friday, it's a short day, I'm gonna do this, but rather like, what's the best sequence?
We're the Fine Arts PLC at Sultan High School. I'm Jill Sumter.
I'm Kevin Anderson, art teacher.
And we are currently working on aligning any curriculum that we may have together, putting scope and sequence into units. Continue.
Mainly focusing currently on assessments, trying to find an activity-based class, how we would assess that. So that's our kind of working on accomplishing piece at the moment.
We kind of have a two-part because we also work with our co-curricular people at the middle school and aligning all of our scope and sequence and our expectations for what they're doing. And just got back from attending a music educator workshop with Emily, and so that was nice to have time to line up a lot of stuff with her.
And where I link up with the middle school teachers, we basically figure out which activities we're doing with them, where they're getting their learning opportunities, whether she's working in clay or I'm working with other 2D, 3D media. So.
What are we proud of? I guess I'm proud of the fact that we, being a little bit smaller and being onesies, we have the flexibility to be creative and use lots of different options for assessment, whether it's concerts or daily in class or attending. For example, we just went to solo ensemble class where kids can work individually or in smaller groups or in larger groups. So we have a lot of options for kids, and they appreciate that.
That's the one cool thing about our fine arts. They do work with our middle school very closely, especially Jill. Jill works really closely with Emily. Both Emily comes up to the high school, Jill goes down to the middle school, and they do a lot of stuff together. So that alignment is getting pretty tight there. So that's the nice thing about with the music department.
And then our last department is, even though they're counselors, they do still help students, so they have their own PLC.
I'm for the SHS Counseling PLT. And this year we're pretty excited because one of our biggest accomplishments is just honestly starting with the basics, reviewing all ASCA documents and frameworks and establishing a regular meeting with the district counselors with the support of building admin and district admin. Thank you, Paul. So getting that process moving. We're also working with the union to support us with this. We're reviewing all other district CSCPs. That's the document that the counseling team is working on. And we're just reviewing school counselor goals this year.
roles.
So our next steps is we're gonna create a timeline of each of the different focus areas for the asset counseling mindset and standards, and incorporate those timelines into our comprehensive school counseling plan. We're gonna share with our stakeholders for implementation, and then also determine what evidence we'll need to collect for the implementation piece. We're creating a timeline right now for district vertical alignment, with each of the elementary, middle school, high school, and ongoing professional development that will support that. And finally, we're gonna consult with OSPI's hatching results team before we submit the document to the state to make sure that we did not miss anything and that we have everything that we need.
And our counselors have an opportunity to go to White River, who is a guru in the PLCs. And so they're gonna go meet with their high school counselors. And those high school counselors will share with them how they conduct their MTSS teams and how they pull the data, how they work together, helping students be better students. So I'm excited for them to go see what the counseling departments do at White River around PLTs. I think it'll be a really good opportunity for them.
So kind of a wrap up of our next steps, it honestly depends on the department. You can kind of see that we're all in different spots, but our focus this year is we are all trying to work on formative assessments or just formative assessments. Even our CTE department comes with formative assessments to share and get ideas and tweak. We're still doing our unit planning, especially for our singleton classes. Like I am the only one that teaches AP biology, so I'm now working on that class, even though I'm still also working honors biology with Miss Mitchell. And then just trying to create our vertical alignment, especially we'd like to get with the middle school and start 6-12 for all of our PLTs. And then just keeping with the 15-day challenge, kind of our unit plans and being flexible, finding out what are our actual essential standards, what are our, it would be nice if they knew it, and then our fun to knows. Because even though you'll always go over, they recommend 8 to 10 standards for your essential standards, but you should be able to teach that in general ed classes, and then we add the nice to know, so you'll hit those. But we really do try to focus on like, here's our boulders, this is what they have to know. If they don't know this, we're gonna feel bad about ourselves that we didn't teach them. So just trying to align that and making sure that we are doing what's best for students. Any questions for us?
That's great. It's nice to know that our investment is working.
This will all start to tie together as you get the interventions and the have to knows and gathering data on students at the have to knows, and it'll start to all fill in as we get a little farther into it.
Bella, questions or comments? Mary Ann? Isaac? Mike?
Great job.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we've got Charlie for a while.
Wait.
What? Oh, I skipped one, sorry. Charlie, never mind. I just got you excited for no reason. Approval of Mental Health Advisory Committee Services Recommendation.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Proctor. I'm the school counselor at SES. This is my second year here and my second year in the role. And I'm excited to be sharing about a service that I think would be really beneficial for Sultan School District to partner with. It's called Care Solace. And I really view this as being able to close the gap in mental health care access for students in Sultan School District. My experience with Care Solace is 2 years ago in my internship. I was down in Central Oregon and at Redmond School District down there. They had just partnered with Care Solace the year that I was there, and so it was cool to see the school counselors start using this program. So it is a mental health referral service. And I've been in contact with Care Solace representatives, and that's where all this information is coming from, and been in touch with different questions that I've had about it. I brought this forward to my counseling team, the other counselors in the district, and then just presented to the Mental Health Advisory Committee last month and kind of got the green light from them, so now I want to bring this to the board. So as we know, we're in a mental health crisis. Just pulled some data from the CDC up here. And of course, when students are struggling with mental health, it's gonna be hard to be a good learner and access their education effectively. And this is a common thing I run into a lot as a school counselor, is a parent will tell me that they wanna get their child into counseling, but they've tried a couple different places, they've been put on lots of wait lists, or insurance is a barrier, or scheduling is a barrier, and it's defeating, and they give up, and we're kind of stuck on how we can get support for the student. So I want to acknowledge the supports that we do already have for helping kids access mental health care. So we have on-site mental health counselors, which is awesome, CMAR, Consejo. We have a mental health counselor from the ESD at the elementary schools this year, which has been amazing. And they're on-site, which is awesome, so students can meet with them during the school day. There's also the Seattle Children's Mental Health Referral Service, which I often will send out to parents, and that helps connect their student to a mental health provider. Then we have our list of resources that I give out to families all the time, things like Psychology Today, search engines like that, or counselors we know in the area that might have availability. And then of course our school counselors on site. But here's where I see the gap in those supports that we have. For those on-site mental health counselors, we still hit our limits. For our ESD counselor who's here, she hit her caseload limit pretty quickly, and we already have a wait list going for her. Scheduling around the school schedule can be a barrier sometimes. And then insurance, for example, Consejo, that counselor can only meet with students on state insurance or no insurance. For Seattle Children's Mental Health Referral Service, I do really like that, but also just that lack of accountability for follow-up. When I send out that link, I don't know if they actually access it or what happens next. And I can follow up with them, but it's hard to track all of that. Things like Psychology Today, search engines, I know from personal experience, it can just be hard to find someone that meets all the criteria. Once we get started, with someone and then it doesn't work, not a good fit. I think that's a huge barrier for families, and it takes a lot of time to actually find someone that's a good fit. And then school counselors, we are not mental health counselors. We can only provide brief counseling, but once it gets to a point of needing extra care long-term, that's when we need to refer out. But oftentimes I find myself feeling like I just need to check in with the student more because I know that they are not able to access mental health care. And obviously at SES we have over 700 students and one school counselor, so that's not sustainable. So here is where CareSolace comes in. So this is from their website. They work alongside school districts to quickly connect students, school staff, and their families to quality mental health and substance use treatment providers matched to their needs. There is a video if you click the What is CareSolace at the top there that should link to a video. Do that, yeah. And this is just kind of an intro to what CareSolace is.
The responsibility weighs heavy on your shoulders. How can students learn when they are struggling with their mental health every day? There's only so much time, budget, and staff to address the growing mental health needs of your students.
I just don't know where to start.
Your school staff go above and beyond to support students. But sometimes all they can do is offer a family a list of resources, and they have no way of knowing if the student gets connected to care. The search for help is extremely overwhelming, especially when a child is in crisis.
Oh, you don't take my insurance. I'm starting to lose hope even.
And the unfortunate truth is that half of those in need of mental health care can't get access to it. This is a community issue, so much bigger than the four walls of your schools. You need a partner to ensure your community gets the mental health support they need. At CareSolace, our mission is to calm the chaos of mental health care for students, staff, and families. Using CareSolace, your school staff can seamlessly refer students to community resources.
Hi, my name is Charlene, and I'm a care companion with CareSolace.
Yes.
I'm here to help every step of the way. I won't give up until we find the right provider.
Our care companions are the guide. Working alongside our advanced matching technology, they quickly connect your community to right fit providers. With Care Solace, your staff have peace of mind, knowing they can offer students and families real solutions and track their progress. Your students, their families, and staff members get connected to mental health services, no matter their insurance, language, location, or severity of need. And you'll gain much needed insight into your community's needs, while having the assurance that you're overcoming mental health barriers and equipping your students with hope for their future.
The amount of time that we're now able to translate back to evidence-based therapeutic services for our students is really impactful.
She's been with the same therapist for almost a year now, and we are so thankful for Care Solace's support.
Thank you, Care Solace. I couldn't get it done without you.
Join us in creating a community where mental health is a priority and everyone has access to the care they need.
Forward. Okay, so yes, so if I wasn't super clear about, but Care Solace is a service that partners directly with school districts. So I'm gonna run through what was said in the video, but more in detail about the different services they offer. So the warm handoff referral process is kind of the main thing that makes Care Solace unique. And I'm gonna go in detail on that in a moment. They also have a 24/7, 365 multilingual support, which is a direct phone line that anyone in the district can call students, staff, or family to get connected with mental health support. The Care Match self-serve tool, I'll also talk a bit more about. And then the main thing I want to point out is that students, families, and staff can access all of these resources once a district partners with Care Solace. So not just students, families of students can access their own mental health care, staff as well as families of staff can access these resources. Okay, so this is the warm handoff is what they call it, the referral process. So once a school district is working with Care Solace, school counselors, maybe school psychs or nurses, anyone else who would need to be able to submit referrals would have their own Care Solace account. Like it showed in the video, they would just go in, put in the student's information, get the referral going. Usually that's after a conversation with the parent or guardian, indicating that they're interested in getting their student into counseling. And then the parent or guardian receives a consent notice. That can be whatever is easiest for them via text, email, phone call. And then once that consent is signed, I think they call it Care Companion. The Care Companion will reach out to the parent or guardian within 15 to 30 minutes. So it's really quick, and then they get all the information from the parent or guardian about the needs of the student, or if it's a staff member or family member, insurance stuff, scheduling, all that. And then the care coordinator will make all the phone calls around, find a counselor that's a good fit or whatever mental health provider is needed. And they usually will find about 3, give those 3 options to the family. They can make the appointment with the family or have the family make the appointment. And then school counselors are able to track all of that. They're able to track which calls are being made, when the family had consented, how many calls out to providers have been made, and then once an appointment is made. And then the care coordinator will continue to follow up after the appointment to make sure it was a good fit. And if it wasn't, they will keep trying. So this was some screenshots from the video of what like a school counselor's account would look like. So we could see all of the students that we have referred and where they're at with the process. So waiting or appointed, so they have an appointment or pending appointment. And then that easy button to just start a warm handoff to make a new referral. When we click on a student's name, we can see the whole timeline of contact with parents, contact with providers, once an appointment is made, the date of the appointment. And then we have the Care Match self-serve tool. So if they don't want to go through the warm handoff referral process, we can also offer this self-serve tool. Similar to things like Psychology Today where you put in different criteria. As far as I'm aware, it's up to date. It only has counselors on there with availability. Everyone on there is a verified provider and they do not pay to be on there. And from what I've heard, it's a pretty easy to user-friendly tool. So here's how I see Care Solace filling the gaps that I had mentioned earlier. Obviously, it's working with all insurance and scheduling needs. The care coordinator gets all those criteria to find the counselor that fits. Saves lots of time for school staff. I know I would love to help families and make those phone calls to counselors and find out who's available. I don't have the time. I don't think a lot of my other fellow counselors have the time. I know our SSAs also support with that, which is great, but this, again, would just save time to just know we can put off this referral and know that someone's gonna be working really closely with that family to find them the care they need. And then increased partnership between school counselors and mental health providers. That's what I like about, rather than, the Seattle Children's or other referral services, we're not able to see for sure once an appointment is made. We kind of have to follow up unless the parent lets us know, but we're able to see when an appointment is made. We can go from there to reach out, see how things are going, get an ROI sign so we can connect with that mental health provider. The big one is that they won't stop until an appointment is made. It can be frustrating for families, I know, to continue to get on wait lists and continue to have things not work out. And usually maybe after 5 tries, people don't have time. It takes a lot of time to figure this out. And if they're not finding someone within like 5 or so people, they kind of give up. CareSolace will, make 40 plus calls as needed to find someone. And then the big one, I think, that's a huge gap that I think this addresses is that staff and families' mental health piece as a way to help everyone in the Sultan School District community access mental health care, not just our students. I want to touch quickly just on staff. We know this came from a meta-analysis of teacher mental health. Burnout is up, stress, anxiety, depression, and we know that if our teachers are well, our students are going to be more successful. And so I really see this as being a support for that. These are some school districts that I just found just from a search online in Washington that are using CareSolace. I reached out to the school counselors in Monroe to hear about their experience using this. They all said that it is very user-friendly. It's really nice to just have that peace of mind knowing once you send out that referral that someone's got it and that you're able to track. One person had worked in both Monroe and Everett and they were using it and very successful in both districts. The only feedback that it can be challenging if the parent or guardian doesn't sign that consent or it's hard to get in touch with them. But we are also able to see that and see like if a case closes because they weren't able to contact the parent, and then we can reach out again. And if for whatever reason there was a reason they weren't able to make contact with the care coordinator at that time, we can reopen the referral if needed, and we don't need to make a new one. So I got a lot of positive feedback. I had only reached out to Monroe though. There is also, I'm just throwing this in there, a social services add-on. So not just connecting to mental health resources, but they can also help families connect to housing and food resources, which our SSAs already do a fantastic job at that, so I don't want to diminish that. All right. Okay, here's what we're all wondering. How much does this cost? So it is, overall it's $4 per student per year. So if we're thinking about, and that's based on student enrollment, total student enrollment in the district. So if we're at 2,000 to 2,100 students, that's gonna be about $8,000 to $8,400 per year. These were some quotes that I got from, her name's Janine Fear, the CareSolace representative I've been meeting with. It would be a discounted rate for a longer contract. So a 16-month contract, for example, if we started in March, it's prorated if you start in the middle of the year. But from March 2025 to June 2026, it's July 1st is the yearly renewal date. That is a discount of $3.50 per student, which would put that total up until June of 2026 to $9,800. Or if we started right away with an initial term of 4 months, again, that's prorated, but still $4 per student. So just for the rest of this year, that would be at $2,800. And then the renewal would just be that typical $4 per student per year. So at $8,400 for the total from now until June 2026 would be $11,200. That social services add-on is an additional 50 cents per student per year. And the numbers here are based off of a 2,100 student enrollment in the district. Okay, some clarifications that that came up when I presented to the Mental Health Advisory Committee. I just said this, but the cost is determined by the number of students in the district, and then that still covers all the students, staff, and families in the district. Like I said, families refers to both staff families and student families, and typically it's only for family members in the same household, but there are exceptions if an older sibling was in the household but moves off to go to college, or even if they're out of state. If their siblings, if their sibling is in Sultan School District, they can still utilize Care Solace and do a warm handoff referral. Staff, if staff want to access for their own mental health, they can call the direct line and get connected to a care coordinator that way if they don't want to go through the school counselor. Obviously, that's a colleague. They might not want, that might be confidential for them and keep that private. For students 13 and older who can seek mental health services on their own, they are not able to make a warm handoff on their own. They do need parent or guardian consent for that, but they can call the direct line to get connected with a care coordinator. School counselors can work with the student and call the direct line together and work with it that way. And there's a quick turnaround once purchased. Once an agreement is signed, they send a survey to the district, and the district puts in the people who would need access to Care Solace. Like I said, probably school counselors, maybe psychs, nurses, and then they provide the account for those staff members. And then there's some training videos and webinars if needed for those staff on how to use the website. And they also give a packet of marketing materials to advertise to the school community that this is there. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I might not know, but I can figure out the answers and go from there as far as next steps.
We got a question. If you had to guess, just using Sultan Elementary as an example, how many kids on a weekly basis do you think would be candidates to be referred through this service?
I mean, I would say maybe on average 5 or so students per week. I am able to refer to our on-site mental health counselors. We've now kind of exhausted that, and I do find myself reaching out to families, and they're kind of like, oh, I just don't know if it's worth, so I think if I knew for sure, I'll just put this form in and they can get you connected, I think that would be beneficial, because I think sometimes I may be hesitant to even because I just know there's not a lot out there, and I know it's frustrating, and so sometimes I'm not always sure if, I can just keep meeting with the student at school and try my best with that, even though I know that they would benefit from outside care. So I think it comes up pretty frequently, especially at SES with so many students, and I've had a lot of parents reach out first and are interested in counseling, and then a lot of times where I'm meeting with a student and kind of reach the threshold on my scope of practice. So I would say about 5.
Follow-up question on that is, just use 10,000 as the number it costs, which by itself is it's $10,000. How much does that $10,000 investment save in resources, both human and otherwise, that can be focused on in school?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, obviously I know with my caseload, I have to be paid extra, and I think that's an extra cost that if I could see if Care Solace was there, that would help with my caseload, because I know I could refer out a lot of students. And I also see it being beneficial for, I'm blanking.
It's a hard,
yeah.
You can't just make a calculation.
Right.
You have to have some idea of, how did we get here?
I mean, I think there are times also when parents will request counseling from the district, maybe something that did happen at school, and being able to refer this way, and to just have that direct communication and access and know that we're able to track it at school. As far as money, I'm not sure how much that would necessarily save, but I think in the long term, I can see just with staffing at school and adding additional school counselors or mental health counselors is definitely great. And then I also see when we still meet those, when we're still at capacity or at the wait list, that just additional, that's what I mean, I was closing the gap, just okay, we have this extra thing, we can refer out this way and know that they're covered.
Sorry, a question I didn't think of before. Frankly, I look at this and I kind of question, is this a responsibility, both financial and otherwise, that the school should really be taking on? But it brings up an interesting point that there's potential cost savings in staff, you know, and I realize it's something you probably don't have, especially since you just said like, it didn't even calculate it. I'd be real interested to hear from Monroe and Issaquah and any of them if they actually did see any return on the investment.
Right.
I see it as an additional cost that I don't know that it's, like I said, school's responsibility, but
I think it's more than just money though too. I mean, it's, the return is in money, but also just helping all the teachers. I mean, it's just in their students and the I mean, it's one of the things you can't put a dollar on sometimes.
well, I mean, we are putting a dollar on, but
I think is the moot point. I move to approve it when we
there's
get there, so.
a lot of great programs out there that I think would have a lot of benefit, and this sounds like something that has a lot of benefit. I just kind of question again, what makes it the school's responsibility financially and otherwise? That we should be taking on the burden that's not necessarily ours.
One of the reasons that Heidi Dawson and I started the Mental Health Advisory Committee in the first place was because there is such a need and the current staff, they don't have time to do this. And as a parent of a child that has I've gone through this personally, and it's really difficult because you are told no and you are told we're full and you're told all of these things. And if I were to have been able to have something like this where they made that for me, it would have helped my child a lot. So I am 100% for this, for our kids and for our staff. And I agree that yes, it costs money, but the return on investment is the sanity of our staff and the help with mental health for our kids, because since COVID, the numbers are crazy. I mean, and that's a bad word to say when we're talking about mental health, but it's needed, is what I will say. It's really needed. And I've gotten that from the Mental Health Advisory Committee, and Paul, is in on those, and we really need things like this.
Paul, how many children do we have that don't have a solid home right now? Do you know off the top of your head? If not, I don't want to put you on the spot, but because I want to add on the social services as well. Because I've heard you over and over again say, this is a problem in our community.
Yeah.
And if a child does not have a food or a home or anything, I mean, 50 cents, sorry, let's do it, sign it up.
Yeah, we're at our highest homeless rate in the last 5 years that we've been at.
The McKinney-Vento numbers.
So, I mean, and you know that our schools are title schools, so that means they're over 50% free and reduced lunch. So if you just take that, you can see what the unstable home life, just with those estimates.
Isaac, comments, questions?
I'm for it, but I also like what Michael brought up. I'd like to see what Monroe, Everett, and everyone, how it's going with it. I'm totally for it, but I'd still, on top of that, like to get that feedback. If we could call them and find out how is it going? How is it coming across?
Because I think part of the question to Hannah at the beginning was kind of tied into what Mike said, and everybody's touched on a little bit. You look at the 10,000 and however you cut that's a lot, but right now, if somebody walked into you, a kid needed help, you're gonna try to help them, even though you're not a counselor. You might try to make phone calls and do different things, and so we don't always have the vehicles to do that. And so when savings is time that you can focus on the other things you need to do, aside from, putting it in a place where it really gets dealt with, because I can't tell exactly. We keep adding counseling services, it feels like, but it's hard to tell. Are we reaching capacity with being able to serve all that have a need? Because that's the part that's really hard to measure. And my guess would be no.
We're not able to
Yes.
meet all the needs.
Yeah, and I think going back to your question of, the return on investment. I foresee this as me, and my other fellow counselors, SSAs, anyone, it's easy for a teacher to just let me know this kid needs a referral and we can put that in. Is freeing up that time to find outside people and freeing up the time of us trying to be mental health counselors as school counselors, which we're not, to then be able to provide more direct services and more tier 1 and tier 2 interventions, and be able to be available for those responsive and crisis needs rather than that those indirect services, which is gonna benefit the student if we're helping them find a mental health provider, but takes up a lot of time that we just don't have. And so I see it as being able to, you know, put our time to those direct services more effectively, and to the student body as a whole, and kind of more of those big picture things that as school counselors we should be able to do, rather than just all the individual.
So Hannah, are we paying a service fee for children's and psychology today?
No, Seattle Children's is free, it's for all Washington State, any kid up to 18 can access that referral service. And Psychology Today is just a search engine tool that's available online.
Marianne, comments, questions?
No, I agree with Michael. And when did we get from education to mental health services within our public school system? That's my only comment.
Bella?
I think it's a really good idea. I mean, you know, being a student, firsthand seeing stuff that like staff wouldn't see, it's something that's really important. Mental health is something like our students struggle with so much. Like my family firsthand having to go through the process is like, it really is difficult. So I think doing this, I mean, we already pay, you know, like psychologists, counselors, whatnot, so like, I don't know. I think this is really, really important.
So
It's also not we can also do like the 16-month agreement and see how it works. It's not permanent. If it doesn't, we find that it doesn't work, I don't know.
It's a lot harder to take something away.
It looks like it's in so many month agreements, but if we feel like it's not, if everyone says it hasn't done anything, then it's really not worth it.
So Dan, if we were to add another counselor, what on average is the cost? Even a half, you know, like contracted, if we were to add another one just to the district, just one.
Another one, probably the cost is probably 100 to 105,000.
We pay 50,000 for the ESD right now for mental health counselor.
And that's with a 200 and some day contract. So, and it's got, the grant covers, I think 150,000, we're only paying 50,000 of it.
And that has a limit still. We've hit her caseload.
Sure,
And she has
that's
a,
what I'm saying, you said
Yeah.
you hit our caseload, so we would have to
So now-
increase that.
yeah.
And if we did, it would eventually, you know, not saying it's gonna completely solve that,
Right.
but it's gonna help at least get us to where we might not need
Yeah.
as many services or, so we're talking about return on investment. There's one that's staring us right in the face. We have to hire more people to augment the workload that Hannah or the counselors have today. Not saying this is the cheaper option, but this is an option that I think is worth exploring.
well, let's do this. Do we have, we'll see what the vote is. Do we have a motion to approve the 16-month agreement with discounted rate of $350 per student with an additional 50 cents per student for social services?
It's a lot. I motion to
Aye.
to approve.
I'll read it back to Kayla later, so. So I have a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Advisory vote, sorry, I should ask that first.
Yes.
Okay. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
You got that, Kayla? Said nay, yes. All right, it passes, so we'll be excited to hear at maybe next month's meeting, how it's getting started and all that, so thank you for coming,
Thank you, Hannah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it, Hannah.
Charlie, now you're up. Approval of portables is your first one.
So this is the fourth version. From when I originally started, I don't know what versions you have all seen, but we've had a couple meetings today. And so this is our final version based on our growth projections and needs for next year. And that originally we were gonna add a gold bar as well, but instead we're gonna would like to add 2 double portable units at Sultan Elementary, along with a portable bathroom trailer. If you scroll, do I have to do this? Okay. Old dog, new trick. Okay, so this is how it would be situated. Google Map, Bing Map doesn't show the existing portable 1718. So I put it in there and then added the two new portables. To the north is Fir Avenue. And the new gate is in between those two new proposed portables. Is it one of the entrances, and we would add the portable bathrooms, which would potentially be a 3-door version so that there could be a staff bathroom out there as well, specifically just for staff.
So this includes the portables and the bathrooms, are we doing them separate, or? Because we've got portable bathroom approval and portable approval,
Yes,
so separate
they
or
are
all together.
together on this, but yes.
So I guess the question, like, are these new portables, they're needed for
So we have
students?
to add at Sultan Elementary School, don't have to, but we need to add 3 classes now. Okay, one, we cut back this year, one class, and just based on the way kids are matriculating through, we're now at 124 kids in kindergarten. I suspect we'll have 120 or more this year as well.
3 classes and a specialist.
I think specialist is part of it, isn't it? Anyway, the point though that I said that I said over the weekend that we're having a problem with, that I'm not sure is widely understood in the community, is that it isn't just classroom space that you grow out of. You need space for all the other things. Right now, our district office conference room is very seldom available because of the being used. And that's just a reality. And so when this plan first came, we had a bathroom and a portable at Gold Bar. Two of them out here, and I think we were gonna replace one, pull it out, and let's not do that. Because just to get rid of one is $60,000. And so we pared down the plan, but I think to give enough capacity on Sultan Elementary's campus, this would be the recommendation, is 2 portables, which is 4 classrooms and a portable restroom. And continue to monitor what happens on Gold Bar's campus, because there's a development out there of 39 homes. I think a couple are built, but they won't start housing people probably for another few months. Just trying to be on the front side of this, because we're really, especially at the younger grades, out of room.
And where does the money come from?
Impact fees, we've got about $1.1 million sitting there right now. 1.12 in the bank today of impact fees. The cost of this project is, give or take a few bucks, $830,000. Have not collected any impact fees from the 60 homes that are just about ready. They've poured curb and gutter, and I think done a little bit with the road. I did get an update from the city that they will start construction here in a couple of months. They will be able to put in, I think it was 8 model homes before they have to start paying impact fees. But to get 60 impact fees for all of them is about $840,000. And the property just to the north of it, which is 170, is gonna be in front of a hearings examiner soon. And they've got, I think, the water issues worked out, and so we're gonna be stuck. We don't wanna be stuck. We don't wanna be stuck, not having enough space to do what we need to do.
Let's switch it up. Isaac, questions or comments? Mary Ann?
Has the facility planning committee been brought together to discuss long-range plans for the district?
They have a couple of times, but not since the last bond failure in November, but that's on my list to talk about. And I'm gonna talk about that in the superintendent's report, cause I've got a plan mapped out, and wanna, now that I've got Michael, he's the CFAC person, to be part of that discussion, cause would recommend the plan in a little bit different way.
Okay.
Bella? Michael? Or
So
Mike?
there was a portable that
was in questionable shape. And I understand that's not included.
There's some budget
Yes.
information on here to make some improvements to it.
Portable 9 and 10, add, replace the
So we
HVAC
would
carpet.
change out the dilapidated heating system with a mini split.
Okay.
So that we have good climate control. One half of that building is currently OTPT, therapy stuff. And then the other side, we would build a wall in the center with an adjoining door so that special pull-out, one-on-one type of stuff, a space for that.
Alright, so it sounds like that's taken care of, don't have to worry about.
And Charlie, do these numbers, do they or do they not include Washington State sales tax?
Do not include tax. And these are guesstimates. The only hard numbers I have are the new portable cost and the portable restroom.
So what do you add, 9.8% to that? So call it
10%.
950 to be safe.
Mike for now, comments, questions?
Need a bond. Need more space for our kids. We're just building mobile home parks.
Kicking cans down the road.
I know that it's money that we spend on this stuff and be spending money on building schools. All right, well, let's see, do I have a motion to approve first, the new portables?
Motion to approve the new portables.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me. Fundamentally oppose portables.
Kids
What do you
gotta have a
sug-
place
what do you
to be.
suggest?
Where are they gonna go?
There's no more space.
Parking lot? No comment or just, okay. Do we have a motion to approve the portable restrooms?
I motion to approve the portable restroom.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Me still.
Okay. All right, Charlie, do you have more? You have, so we did that one, district office
I'll-
HVAC
I could
update.
start on this one, I'll just
Okay.
share, I'm the one that put this on and put it on because this has been a long-standing issue. I understand with difficulty in heating and different things in different buildings that this isn't probably the most positive thing to look at. But I wanted to make sure there was a record of it during the 24-25 school year in the event that the system goes to pot in October and the new superintendent is forced with trying to figure out what to do. That there's a record of being talked about, that we have to restart the system almost every day. And I don't know, for those of you that remember Bruce Fletcher, we go back past him and having people try to map out what a new system would look like. But the district office is not where our priority is, and we've always just not brought it up. But now that there's a transition happening, and the fire marshal recently came through, wanted to bring this to your attention. Whatever you do with it is really what you do with it. Even if, we've talked about what if a bond did pass and the district office ended up somewhere else, there's a good chance that building would end up being a preschool or something as well. So I'm not,
There is a couple little facts that I can give you that, fire marshal, there was a lot of, violations, if you will, based on how we have our heating and cooling set up there. Basically, there's 3 types of heatings in that building. One is an electric furnace, and that is for the south part of the building. There is a gas fire furnace that basically only blows down the north hall, and then some of the north offices have like a cadet heater in the wall. Not very efficient, especially with a window air conditioner in every window, and how it's built in, it's, piece of wood is what's keeping the cold out. The power that we would save by having a heat pump for that building, the the electrical panel currently is over full, and it would alleviate and give some room for growth for power.
So would they just do mini splits there too?
Yeah, so the south side of the building is ducted for the electric furnace. We would want to add ducting for the north side as well, underneath the building. And yes, there would be
So it'd be like
heat
the
pumps.
furnace with a heat pump.
Yeah.
Oh, that would save a ton of power.
Yeah, sounds like we'd have an ROI within
Well,
a few years.
the window unit, AC units have, that would be where we would save the most is during the summer. Cause the district office is open year round, and the electric furnace portion of the heat, it has to be reset every morning. It's old.
No, it's awful. I was sitting in Kayla's office, I was like, what is this? It's a joke, it needs to be changed. I mean, right, the amount of money you'll save with that system, it'll pay for itself, won't take long at all.
You can say that about all of our schools too.
True.
I mean, I oppose spending anything on admin right now until we can fix our schools. That's my stand. Until we can get the students and staff where they're not sweating or having to wear winter coats.
Yeah, but if that system fails, now.
That's a big part of this,
It's
just
gonna
so-
there's gonna be major failure.
We have failure right now in most of our schools and a lot of our HVAC. I mean,
Lots of
I would like to see an entire proposal from you for all of our facilities. What it would
I
take
gave
to
I
fix
gave
it.
some ballpark numbers for the cooling for our schools. I didn't present it, but it was
sent to everybody.
information given.
Is that the one last year?
No.
No,
this-
a couple months ago.
Yeah,
And there's a mechanism that could pay for it too, so it was turned in
I'll go
once it
back.
was requested.
what's the cost of this? I don't see a cost.
I don't have an estimate yet, but the cost of a heat pump, commercial one, is about 16,000 a piece. And I think it will take three to, because of the way the spaces are divided up, three of them to adequately heat and cool that building.
And would this money come from if this were approved?
Capital projects, DNR collections.
I don't
It's a lot more than I expected.
That's
a
think
lot.
that I would want to vote on this tonight until we actually have actual numbers. So if we can get actual numbers, and then I think we would have be more educated on the topic.
Sure.
Bella, comments, questions, Mary Ann?
What's the
Isaac?
square footage of that building? Rough.
If you don't count the basement or the attic, probably 2,700.
Well, yeah, that's probably about right, cause 3,500 sticks out in my mind.
Probably with the
seems-
attic and stuff.
Yeah,
It seems high for that size of.
Well, I think if we can get, I think we can all probably agree on this, get
the bids.
the price of that, what it was gonna cost, and then also let's revisit the cost of doing the schools, cause I remember that presentation, but I don't remember when it was.
So I didn't. After we did that, we went back and costed out what it would take to translate each of the schools. And there's that, I haven't talked a lot about it, but there is a potential mechanism to make it happen.
So let's do that at the next meeting. Can we please discuss that?
Yeah, be great.
Okay.
Michael, anything to add? Mike, and I think we added that, so let's do that.
Okay.
Got your marching orders, is that all for you? I think
That's it
that's
for me.
it for you, okay, thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Diligent, Kayla, are you talking about this one?
I can, so in short, what we use right now is Word docs. And I've talked with them recently and they put it in simple term where you can keep updating a phone, but eventually you have to switch to new software. And that's essentially what they're doing with Word docs is there's a new platform called Community, which will perform exactly the same. Dave Lee and I sat in with them on a demo and we'll still have all the functionality that we have with connecting to YouTube. The same display where they can see where we are in the agenda, if there's any documents being presented, and they can see the presenter. And the new addition would be, the policies migrating over and just the same search capability through board docs and so just much streamlined and not so kind of clunky.
So basically, it's the renewal and then an extra $1,000 for all the extra stuff.
And that,
Not exactly what she said.
Okay. Michael?
Is it, I mean, as I understand, we're not using all the features of board docs that we have. So do we need these additional features?
so basically board docs is being phased out.
It's being phased out. I saw that, but I wasn't sure what them, like,
So this is the
they
next
don't have a
generation.
comparable, we have to upgrade.
Yeah, and there's no a la carte option either. But we are slowly implementing that.
So the question is either abandon board docs or no more questions.
Mike?
No question.
No, we need to do it. Isaac?
Nope.
Marianne?
I'm good.
Bella? Can I get a motion to approve diligent board docs community renewal?
I make a motion to approve board docs renewal.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And I keep forgetting to ask for advisory votes, so thank you. I'll remember one of these days. All right. It's 8 o'clock, trying to move a little quicker. Superintendent search update, we met, what day was that?
Wednesday?
Wednesday?
Was this Wednesday?
Yeah, last Wednesday, we had 24 candidates, narrowed it down to 6 plus an alternate. We are going to interview those 6 candidates this Saturday. And we will come to a top 3. And those will be our finalists, and we'll announce those names once we decide on that on Saturday night. And then the 4th, 5th, and the 6th, the candidates will each be in the district. The top 3 will be in there for one day. I'll have the schedule for those days done tonight because we had another change today. They'll be going to each school, have opportunity to meet with everybody. We hope that everybody will take the time to meet with them. And there will be forms for you guys to fill out for your feedback. And if you can do that every single day with all 3 of those candidates, that would be great, because we're gonna take all of that and use that when we make our decision. So our staff, their opinion is really important to us. And then that last day, which will be the 6th, we will have executive session, we will discuss, and then we will go into open session to make our choice and vote. So at the end of next week, we will have our new superintendent chosen. So, if anybody has questions, you can email me, Kayla, and I think that's it. Did I forget anything? Kayla? Okay. Board protocols, we just need to sign the board protocols. There is not one copy with all of our signature on it, so we don't need to really review this right now because it is 8 o'clock. But we do need to all sign it. Kayla, do we have a copy of it? Okay, great. So just don't leave tonight until we sign that. Second read of policy 4300. Dan, I'll let you do policies if you would.
So this policy first came up, I think at our last business meeting, and it has been around since 2020. It's not currently in our policy repertoire. If I remember correctly, one of the questions that I had and I addressed, and I pulled up what I did, is do we have within our current policy some of the language here, and we do, not the complete part of it, but it has to do with immigration, immigrant students and non-discrimination against those students. And so the question is, what do we do today with that? And there's protocols that we follow. And so in the one letter I've sent to the community back on January 29th, I believe it was, I referred to 3 policies. Policy 3210, policy 5010, which is employee non-discrimination, and policy 3226, which refers to interviews and interrogations of students on school premises. And within that policy, there's a number of different areas that are covered. It's not uncommon at any given time for a representative of CPS to just show up and wanna interview kids. And so we have some protocols in place for that. The heightened awareness obviously is concerned that we will have ICE agents show up and start interrogating students. That's a concern of folks. And so in a nutshell, many school districts have adopted 4,300. I think we're one of a few that have not. And
I think we might have differing opinions on this, but I'll start on this one. For me, this takes everything from those 3 different policies and puts it all in one place. The other school districts that I've looked at, all have this policy. It's not new, it's from 2020. So, my opinion is that my vote would be that we move forward with second read of this, just because I like that it puts everything in one place. And from the staff that I've spoken to would appreciate that, because they're nervous and concerned about if things might happen. And I like that it would be in one spot and that other districts most everybody else already has it, and it's been around for 5 years now. So that's my opinion. Bella, do you have anything you want to add? Mary Ann?
I do. Will you look at policy 4300P?
The procedure?
The procedure, and the very first line where it says policy, it says 430P. Can you please add another 0 in the top right?
I can't, but Kayla can.
Thank you.
Any of the substance of it, any
No,
comments or
I'm
questions?
good with everything else. It just, if it goes into effect like this, it's a little misleading. 430P instead of 4300P.
Thank you for catching that. Isaac?
Nope, looks good.
Mike?
I think it's redundant and just adds more work. I mean, it's another policy, it's clearly stated in the policies that Dan referred to earlier. I don't see any reason why to add another policy. Inside of the policy, it talks about managing the areas outside of our district. As far as adjoining properties, I don't think that should be on there. We are only responsible for our district properties. I don't think we can do much for somebody who's standing across a sidewalk as far as holding them from doing anything.
Where's that at? 'Cause I can make a note.
It's in the,
This is long.
it's in the very first, excludes receiving.
Oh, adjacent sidewalks?
Yeah, it's right there. So district facilities, property, equipment, database, otherwise on school grounds or other immediate vicinity. There's also one that said sidewalks and anything that was close to the, so that's, we need to limit it to our district.
Michael? I know, I see the sidewalks. Where was the other one you said about I see adjacent sidewalks, parking
Immigration
areas.
enforcement on school campus, 1, it's in the middle. I can stay with you.
Ah,
afterwards, we
immediate,
can do
okay,
it.
I see it now.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a lot.
And it's stated in, I think, one other time as well.
Okay.
So it's-
Okay, we can look for that. Michael, comments, questions?
Kids should feel safe to go to school. They shouldn't be, intimidated. I'm on board. But I do agree with Mike.
Yeah, I didn't see
If we already have it stated somewhere else, making it redundant just creates opportunity for conflict between the two. If we already have it in a policy somewhere, I think it's detrimental to have it in 2 places.
It's the ones that Dan had mentioned, there's 3 different policies that encompass it, so having it all in one place is kind of, I think, the purpose of it, so.
3226, it's pretty clear there, as far as.
Yeah,
immigration
I kind of agree. Don't have 2 policies for the same thing.
Well,
If it's stated clearly, then it shouldn't be.
We'll see what the
Or eliminate the
motion
others.
goes. So is there a motion to approve second read of policy 4300 with the change in the number of 430P being corrected and removing immediate vicinity? Is there a motion for that?
I make a motion to what she said.
I'll type it up for you, Kayla. We have a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed. Opposed.
Okay. All right. Next one is 2340.
Okay. Second read of policy 2340. This is pretty minor changes. I don't know if we've gone through this. I don't recall any questions around it, but let the board comment and see if that is in fact the case.
I had no comments or questions. Bella? Mary Ann? Isaac?
No.
Mike?
No.
Michael?
I'd actually like to backtrack just for a moment.
Okay.
4,300, maybe before we have our final read, we could have a comparison of those policies and really lay out, make sure that everything's covered at least somewhere from 4,300. Because if it's not, it needs to be there somewhere.
Yeah, we can talk, we can
Yeah,
go
cool.
through that.
All right, sorry. As for 2340, no questions.
Can I get a motion to approve second read of policy 2340?
I make a motion to approve second read of policy 2340 regarding religious related activities and practices.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Advisory vote? I'll get it down. Okay, first read of policy 1450. Let's just, did anyone have questions or comments on 1450?
No.
No?
Uh-uh.
Can I get a motion to approve first read of policy 1450?
Motion to approve first read of 1450.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, are we, policies for March, we've got 1822. Superintendent report.
Okay, I put two documents there, first as a report, and then I'll reference the second one. Let me pull this up here, and I'll just speak straight from there. On Friday, March 7th, myself and Kayla Chong will accompany our two student board representatives to Anacortes. We'll leave district office about 7 or 7:15, and they will be engaged from 9 to about noon in a student school board representative retreat with other student school board representatives.
Awesome.
The superintendents will be in a meeting, and Kayla will just work on campus there, or she'll interact with the kids or do whatever she wants to there. But I think it's a great opportunity for them to. So, you know what, interestingly, at superintendent's meeting just a few weeks ago, this topic came up. And if I haven't mentioned it, you guys are doing some really good best practice. And one of the things that, you know, going to the elementary schools is some of the things that the other schools are considering doing. A couple do it already, but making sure that the elementary voice is included. So good work with that. Second thing, gym floor update. We've had 3 separate groups take a look at it. The most recent one involved Branston Floors, and they brought, they were asked to come with our insurance adjuster, McLaren, and they had, is it McLaren, Dan? Yeah, and they had their own floor, what's that?
I stole Mike's pen.
I find some.
Nope, no, it's all me.
Okay. And
It's a long night.
and so it has been looked at by 3 separate specialists. And it'll be a little bit until we get a report, but I think it's getting heavily scrutinized right now. The question that's come up, and Charlie's not here, but I'll let Dan speak to it if he knows any part of this, is the splits that have been showing up have caused, you know, lots of stress among people, and kind of said they'd be more worried if the floor was put in too crowded than if those splits, because those will fill in over time. Is kind of the way I was told it'll happen.
It still sounds like it wasn't done right.
That's what we're getting to the bottom of, and I think for me commenting would be just me commenting, and I think we have the right people looking at it, and I will let you know once the minute I get a report and give you some information on that. Superintendent goals update. Remember back on November 7th, we did a retreat, talked about goals for the remainder of the school year. We're now part of the Snohomish County Early Learning Coalition. I've got a meeting either Wednesday or Thursday on that. ready for kindergarten. Kayla is working with me and our group of 3 facilitators. We were set to have a meeting on Friday, last Friday, but didn't. We moved it out a little bit. But very soon you will see a schedule for workshop signups to be able to start to get to go. And we're excited to engage the community. And I guess the part about this is this is for anybody and everybody that has a child. It isn't, participating in this doesn't mean that, you're flawed in some way. It's not. Parents will always be the first and best teacher. We will never redo or recreate in our school system what parents do. And we're trying to create a learning opportunity for anybody and everybody that wants to learn. I was 38 when I had my first son. I went to some classes because even though I, thought I knew some things, there was a lot I didn't know and needed to learn. And hopefully I've done okay, but we'll find out. So it's a learning opportunity for parents is what it is. And then superintendent student cabinet calendar, I've got that sketched out. Can you post that here, Kayla? And that will engage some high school students and middle school students. The purpose obviously is to engage student voice in the process of planning, policy with the board, learning, and really learning about it. And the idea of this is a needed feature or a needed platform in our school district. But the idea will be is when you guys pick a successor superintendent on March the 6th, that at some point over the successive few months, I will have a chance to introduce he or she to the students in this group, and they can plan and calendar the years to come on what that'll look like. Because I think this is an area that needs to be strengthened and needs to be, we have to have much more interaction with our student body, have to have much more understanding of the student experience, and take that into consideration when we're making policy or trying to understand the learning programs and things that kids need. So it's really trying to, have that handoff work as seamlessly as we can. CFAC, Michael, I wanna hold open houses on each of the campuses beginning in April and get the a new edition of the group kind of going. Those that anybody can participate. But when you think about the model that we've had, this is just something to throw out. The group will come up with something is that it may be time to rethink what the model looks like. We own a great piece of property, and rather than do an elementary focused remodel, maybe you do a new high school or something like that, and then shift middle school to high school, and you can spread them out like that. Just an idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Have we been able to find a community member that's willing to lead up the CFAC?
I will put a more robust effort into that, because that's, I think that's a, where these things are successful is there's a strong community component. And that's probably an area where we need some, and I don't wanna suggest that people don't care, that's not what I'm saying, but there's a real grassroots driven effort to say, this is our community, this is what we need, we're all in this together, let's make it happen. And I fully understand, because we all experience it, the cost of things is more expensive, and there are challenges we have to be cognizant of, but at the same time, we've gotta figure this problem out. And I think over the years, you're gonna see continued maturation in the community.
I think switching that, like getting the ideas for the high school, cause the high school is the gem of a school district, usually. And I think
That's come up a lot, and I
Yeah.
think, in my own reflection on it, I had a really hard time looking past Portable City at the elementary school. But
Yeah, but that would open
rethinking how you think about it differently and look at the high school as something that everybody will experience and you can still spread out among your other facilities, is probably a better plan. But it seemed, again, it took a while to get here, but we're here. And it's not about me, but it's about something the community will do. And so we'll get this process started. That'll be another one that needs to be handed off. And then I'll be involved from a distance or advisory or whatever needs to happen, so. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
All right, so you need 10 minutes of executive session?
Yeah, maybe less.
Okay, and then we need, so also, I'm gonna throw it under number 5, which is the evaluation of candidate qualifications. For our questions, how long do you think we need for that, you guys? Do we do it in 10 minutes?
Less than a minute a question.
15 minutes?
15, yeah.
So that's a 25-minute
Sure, it's a good
executive
goal.
session. So, all right, well, because the reason we ask for how much time, because when we're done with that, technically we have to go back into,
I understand.
So let's say 25-minute executive session, let's start at 8:25, give us 5-minute break real quick.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the executive session.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
How many people need to go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
I think it's
No, that's.